no more. They don't march, they don't scream, they just stop.
No shade to the content creator or the idea, but I need to talk about this again because I just talked about this a couple of days ago and I've pointed this out, and I've been pointing this out for quite some time for anybody who's followed my channel for any length of time for the last couple of years. I've covered this quite a bit. This idea of a work stoppage won't work this time. See, the people who run this, the central bankers that run all of this, they have learned from their mistakes in the past. They're not going to make the same mistakes twice. Okay? These are smart people. They do learn from their mistakes, and they're not going to repeat the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union collapsed because of exactly what you're talking about. People achieved this sort of Zen moment where they said, we pretend to work, they pretend to pay us. And the whole thing collapsed. That's what happened, okay? Well, they're not gonna let that happen again. And that's why 20 years ago, 25 years ago, see, everybody notices this now, but this started 25 years ago. They started replacing you with people from other countries who don't care about any of that. Okay? Remember, I just talked about this. For regular followers, you know, you've seen the other videos. I just talked about this. They started replacing you guys years ago in the West because they knew that was coming. You do realize these people do know this stuff. They know it's coming. They know that Americans and Brits and Canadians and so on are going to start saying, hey, hold on. In other words, the people who thought they were at the top of the food chain, you're not actually the top of the food chain. The top of the food chain are the central bankers. You're actually their food. You just don't realize it, right? Okay. People who thought they were at the top of the food chain start saying, just a second here, I'm going to do a work stoppage, and they know that's coming. So they already imported millions and millions and millions of illegals and H-1Bs and legals and other, like whatever you want to call them. And none of those people care about your cul-de-sac dwelling white people problems, because that's how they look at it. No, and it affects black people too. I mean, I'm just pointing out, like the working class, the people who do all the work, it's in the name, you know, the people who do all the goddamn work. Yeah, those people, they don't care about your problems. The people that are here, they're just, all they know is the currency that they're given, the worthless garbage currency like the USD that they're given, for example, it spends more in their country. That's all they know. That's all they care about. They don't care about the problems of the local people here who look at this and go, dude, we can't even live on this much money. Like, they're paying us, you know, like, I mean, this is why your minimum wage will never go up. This is why all this stuff, like, it's because it would cause bottom-up inflation, it would collapse their system, and then a new system would have to be born, and most people would switch probably to hard currency. Especially since now there's a lot of other options for hard currency than there was before. Harder currencies, in fact. So because of that, that's why they're not gonna allow this to happen. Why do you think the trucking sector is like filled, and they will not get rid of these people? They could have fatality after fatality after fatality after fatality, and they do, on the roads with semi-trucks of people who don't speak English, don't care about the country, they don't care about any of this. Their birth dates are 1/1 of 88 or something like that, and there's no name given on their CDLs, etc. They can have that go on and on and on forever, and they don't care because they're replacing you. They just want people who will just keep this Ponzi scheme going. Okay, they need people, not you, to be clear. Okay, they just need warm bodies, not you. If you were, you know, if you were being attacked by a giant spider and, you know, being wound up, you know, Frodo style, would you be thinking in your mind, well, you know, that spider is just trying to live a better life and, you know, for its family? Probably not. That wouldn't be what you would be thinking, would you? Yeah. So what the colleges have done, particularly the universities and a bunch of, you know, cul-de-sac dwelling liberal twats, what they've done is convinced a bunch of Americans and Brits and everybody else, you know, in the Western world, the English-speaking world, that, well, no, these poor people coming here to make a better life for their family. Yeah, that's replacement. They're just consuming you, and they're not going to stop. Okay, so if everybody decides, yeah, we're going to do. There's also the other problem of what happens when resentment kicks in, because the other issue is that, as you mentioned, it's like, well, let's have this civilization where people can work together and have co-ops and so forth. You can do that with a couple hundred people. You cannot do that with a couple 100 million. It doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because eventually people are going to find out that there's going to be a group of folks who do all the work, and they're going to say, hold on, we're doing all the work and you guys aren't doing anywhere near as much work. And then they start saying, well, let's do a work stoppage. You're right back, and then it's oh my God, you're being selfish and greedy and blah, blah, blah. And like, this is why these things fall apart. This is why communism, for example, on a small scale will work just fine. On a large scale, doesn't really work. It doesn't translate because there's too many people who have too many different values and too many different value systems within each other. That's why you can only get people to agree on a handful of things that they don't want. That's it. You can never get anybody to agree on everything that they do want. That's just not reality. That's where our Constitution came from, for example. It came from just saying, let's agree on a few things that we don't want the government to do. That's it. That's what it was supposed to be. So you have that problem as well. So I mean, it's like there's several layers of issues, but the biggest one is you're already being replaced. And all the Western countries were told not to have kids. There was the war on teen pregnancy. I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up in the middle of that. The ground zero for all of that. Oh my God, your life is over if you have kids. Yeah, they're still preaching that. Don't do it because of environment. Yeah. That's what happened. So they've already figured this out. They figured it out a long time ago, and they're not going to stop. So we could try all of that, all you want. They're just going to replace you. And they'll call it some kind of supremacy, I'm sure. Even though it's like there's multi different races that I'm talking to with this. It'll be deemed as some kind of, oh my God, terrorism. Oh my God, it's this group of radical people. That's exactly how it'll be spun in the media. And the media spoons feeds that crap to boomers and idiots. Most of them are police and military. And boomers, idiots, police, military. Yeah, they're all the same. They all look alike to me. And yeah, that's what happens. They just believe all that crap. Because they don't understand the math, and they don't understand anything of what I just said. Nobody understands anything that I say except for maybe 5% of the people who follow me. So, I mean, not to be a jerk about it, but I'm like, so while I understand the sentiment, when we talk logistics, if you want to talk actual logistics, they are ahead of you already by about 25 years. You would have to demand the borders be closed and every single illegal and H-1B shoved out of the country. And right now, the Orange administration is not going to do that. They're not. They're already talking amnesty for these people now, no different than Reagan did in 1986. So no, they're not going to get rid of all these people. And of course, if you did, it's, oh my God, racism. Yeah, that's what happens. So the very twats that complain about this are the very twats supporting all of it because they're dumbasses. It's just the truth.